Hello everyone, I'm Ada, also known as Sana Min, a data analyst at HEARTCOUNT. I'm excited to welcome you to our second webinar session. If you joined us previously, you remember that we unpacked the basics of HEARTCOUNT. Today, we'll delve into the essential principles of time series analysis, from its rich heritage to the latest breakthroughs. So we have a concise 15-minute lecture planned for you and followed by a hands-on 15-minute exercise. So, are you ready to jump in? Okay, so let's get started. By the way, have you noticed our cover image? This is one of the earliest time series chart highlighting trade between Denmark and Norway. Today, we're going to talk about EDA for Time-Series Dataset. That's why I brought an example. But with further ado, let's dive into time series analysis. What is time series analysis? It's the study of values observed at regular intervals. Even if there are occasional gaps in data, it's still deemed a time series. At its core, it aims to decipher the patterns of the data such as trends, seasonality, and cycles. It's not just about analysis, but also predicting future values based on past data. So when we undertake exploratory analysis of time series data, we're seeking out patterns such as seasonality, cycles, and trend mentioned above, and we'll showcase this in our hands-on session later. Forecasting, meanwhile, is all about predicting the future using past data. And there are also various datasets out there to explore, like those on Kaggle or UCI Machine Learning Repository. And there's also a free book about forecasting used as a reference for today's webinar. Those who are interested, you can just click on the links and have a look here. Okay. So now, diving deeper into time series data, there are pivotal concepts to grasp. One such concept is temporal behavior, which helps us comprehend data trends over time. Seasonality is a periodic fluctuation of a fixed period. While many refer to it simply as seasonality, periodicity might be a more precise term. It describes patterns that recur at fixed intervals like quarterly, monthly, daily, or hourly. Conversely, cyclic patterns do recur, but not at fixed intervals. In traditional statistics, cyclic patterns might vary, perhaps repeating every 2, 5, or 10 years, and so on. On the other hand, a trend exists when there is a long-term increase or decrease in the data. It signifies a consistent directional movement, but it does not have to be linear. And spotting these patterns can be tricky. Let's have a closer look by examining some examples. The first chart, monthly housing sales, seems to lack a distinct trend. Yet, upon closer inspection, one can discern both seasonal and cyclical patterns. Cyclic behavior can be found with a period of about 6 to 10 years. Here. And the US Treasury chart, on the other hand, has no seasonality, but an obvious downward trend. Possibly, if we had a much longer series, we would see that this downward trend is actually part of a long cycle. But when viewed over only 100 days, it appears to be a trend. And the third chart, Australian quarterly electricity production, shows a strong increasing trend with strong seasonality. But there's no evidence of any cyclic behavior here. Lastly, the Google closing stock price chart has no trend, no seasonality, or cyclic behavior. In other words, it has irregularity. It seems to be random fluctuations, which are hard to predict. Moving on, stationarity is a recurring theme in time series studies. It's about consistency over time. This is an essential knowledge, especially when delving into economic time series models like ARIMA. For instance, if data remains stable over 24-hour segments, that's indicative of stationarity. The accompanying chart here portrays energy consumption in September 2017 to between 13 to 15 hours. You can spot a clear seasonality with peaks during lunch and those lulls in the early hours. To put it another way, a stationary dataset does not have trend, seasonality, cyclical, and irregularity components of the time series. For a dataset to be stationary, it must display consistent variance over time. Variance and averages and covariance over time. So note that there are also ways to assess whether the dataset is stationary or not. The Dickey-Fuller test or augmented Dickey-Fuller test is a common statistical test. And regrettably, no model can predict the future with absolute certainty. More often than not, the time series data are non-stationary. That is, the values of the time series do not revolve around a constant mean or with a consistent variance. The reality is, although neural networks offer promising results, predicting based on past data remains a formidable challenge, especially in unpredictable areas like stock prices. But typically, we confine autoregressive models to stationary data, which we'll touch upon in coming slides. And for now, remember that stationarity is paramount because in its absence, a model describing the data will vary in accuracy at different time points. This is an example of a stationary time series, and this is a non-stationary time series. Okay. So another pivotal concept under time series, which I'd like to introduce, is autocorrelation. We'll also delve into the idea of lag, the interval between data points. Fundamentally, time series data predicts its future based on past observations. The similarity between observations as a function of the time lag between them is what we mean by autocorrelation. For example, finding a correlation between data from 2 hours ago and the current moment could exemplify autocorrelation. Observing the chart below, you'll notice a recurring pattern every 24 hours. So if lag 1 represents 1 hour ago, then this is a clear depiction of autocorrelation. The right-hand image illustrates autocorrelation function of the sample time series above, with the one below being the partial autocorrelation function. PACF might sound intricate, but consider it an extension of autocorrelation concept we discussed. It pinpoints the correlation between data points and its lagged values, excluding intermediary or indirect effects. So this segues nicely into our discussion about AR models in the realm of time series forecasting. The AR or autoregressive model is a specific type of regression used to predict a value based on its antecedent values, making it a potent forecasting tool. For businesses, say a dairy distributor, forecasting monthly demand is pivotal. So AR models can anticipate how much milk will be required each month by examining patterns in the past values. The PACF chart identifies which past values are pivotal for the forecast. Only values with significant direct correlations are incorporated into AR model, ensuring it's streamlined and avoiding overfitting. For instance, values from the previous month, m sub t minus 1, and the same month from the previous year, m sub t minus 12, show a pronounced positive correlation with this month's production. But conversely, values from 2 months ago, m sub t minus 2, and 4 months ago, m sub t minus 4, display a strong negative correlation with this month's production. Okay. This is the AR model for time series analysis as demonstrated by HEARTCOUNT forecasting features. We employ methods like least squares or max entropy for predictions. However, discrepancies between real values and predictions can be observed. Historically, prediction models based on time have always been a topic of fascination, but their efficacy has been a subject of debate. In recent times, many professionals and clients find these models to be less appealing. Summing up, the AR model, despite its seeming simplicity, isn't without its limitations, as demonstrated by HEARTCOUNT. Predictions can vary considerably from real outcomes, especially when solely reliant on the past trends. Delving into predictions, it's acknowledged that traditional statistical models can be challenging. Now let's turn our attention to machine learning models tailored for time series prediction. Let's try with XGBoost or Extreme Gradient Boost, a tree model which often emerges as a winner in Kaggle competitions. Let's take a quick look at this Kaggle notebook using PGM and hourly energy consumption data. Without the inherent understanding of time, XGBoost rely on artificially creating features for prediction. For instance, variables like an hour ago or day of the week must be crafted to aid the model. Here we see feature creation in action where columns like hour, day of week, quarter, month, and day have been introduced. And initially, we only had timestamps and energy consumption as a variable. For time series prediction, lag features are essential. Hence, lag features for data from 1 year ago, 2 years ago, and 3 years ago is introduced in this notebook. And after observing the distribution and creating the model, the error here was around 4,000 hours. And furthermore, the vital variables in order of importance were the lags, like energy consumption from 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and the subsequent variables of significance were the hours. And as there is a discernible pattern of energy consumption across time. For instance, predicting energy consumption at 5 p.m. tomorrow, it's evident that it will surpass that at 4 a.m. today, because this is the lowest point, this is the highest point. Almost, yeah. So that's the main takeaway. And now let's move on to our hands-on session. With HEARTCOUNT, you can just log in here, and you can also find the dataset we're using here. We'll scrutinize this dataset here. Detailing power consumption spanning from 2016 to 2020, and this univariate time series data will be our focal point for today's exploration. And if you access the dataset into our heart count via the link provided, you'll see this screen right here. Oh, but before we delve into that, I like to highlight the Kaggle dataset of PGM's energy consumption we discussed earlier, which is this. So with heart counts, your driver analysis feature, you can discern which variables significantly influence the prediction of energy consumption from PGME. In the XGBoost model we touched upon, legs were pivotal, followed by the time of day, the hour. And here, the most crucial variable emerged as the hours of day. So a glance at its distribution will elucidate this. So the essence is, if you're familiar with the observation time or the future timestamp you aim to predict, your predictions can be more precise. And that's the insight. Alright, so let's dive into our next hands-on session. We're going to tackle some EDA, that's Exploratory Data Analysis for those unfamiliar. And we'll use our dataset, Power Usage 2016 to 2020, to uncover its hidden patterns. And as I show you this, remember that you can drag and drop your own data, just like what I did. And the best part here is that everything I'm showing you from now on is completely free for public users as well. So I encourage you to give it a try as we go along. Now, while many time series datasets have multiple variables, for today we're keeping it simple. We're focusing on univariate data, which means we're only looking at time and energy consumption. Click continue and start EDA. Okay. So currently I'm going to set it to display the sum, the cumulative total, and change this. And if you click on this clock icon, you'll see a bunch of display options from yearly, monthly, quarterly to hourly breakdowns. Although this hourly breakdown might seem a bit dense initially, narrowing our viewing window can provide clarity by adjusting our view, like zooming in and out or moving like side to side. We can get a much clearer picture. Heart count lets you tweak the details to your liking, always. I'll change the setting to auto for now. And if you recall, the CSV file we looked at earlier here was just a bunch of timestamps. But heart count has done some heavy lifting for us. So it's similar to what you'd get with Kaggle Notebook, breaking down those timestamps into useful bits of information in the feature creation part. So let's look closer. This right here tells us that our data sets is being broken down to year by year. And if we explore further, we've got quarterly data showcasing quarters from Q1 2016 to Q4 2020. And months also follow a similar format. In weeks, due to their granularity, can be quite extensive. Anyway, now let's check out the x-axis as I switch between yearly and monthly views. Yeah, in hourly views. Okay, so the ABCs right here, you see, those represent categories. And when you look at the monthly cycle, it's pulling all the Januaries, all the Februaries, all the March, and so on from different years. It's a great way to spot patterns. For instance, if we focus on the hourly cycle, I'm going to change this to sum again, hourly, there's a noticeable dip in the consumption around 7 to 8 a.m., but then it peaks right back up. And the daily cycle or the monthly cycle, that gives us a snapshot of each month's ups and downs. So there are actually various ways to make our 2D data more insightful. We could introduce colors or even try 3D visualizations, though sometimes simpler is better. So one technique I find particularly useful is faceting. So it can break down data. I'm going to change this to hours again and give months here. So this helps us see the energy consumption patterns hour by hour, and also month by month. So it's quite intuitive. While I won't cover all that HEARTCOUNT offers today, one standout feature is its ability to automatically highlight time-based trends. It's a game changer for spotting patterns. And by observing these patterns, we get a clearer understanding of energy consumption trends. Tools like HEARTCOUNT make this analysis straightforward by seamlessly deriving time variables for us. Wrapping up, thank you for your engagement today. Always remember, understanding your data is the cornerstone of accurate time series analysis. Platforms like HEARTCOUNT are designed to support you on this journey. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with any queries. Here's to fruitful data analysis. Until our next session, take care.